Good evening, and welcome to tonight's public hearing on the FY 2020 advertised budget. On behalf of school board members, I would like to thank you for taking time this evening to come and talk to us about the budget. At this time, if you have not already done so, please provide your written comments to one of our clerks seated in the box to my right, and please turn off or silence your cell phones. Tonight we have 15 registered speakers. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes, and to be respectful of everyone, we ask that you stay within that time limit. The timer will start when you begin to speak, and you will be able to see the time remaining on the clock on the lectern. The buzzer will sound at the conclusion of your 3 minutes. 3 names and their speaker numbers will be announced at a time. When you hear your name and speaker number, please move closer to the front of the auditorium so you will be ready when it is your turn to speak. If speakers are not here when their name is called, those names will be called again at a later time. If you have not registered to speak tonight but would like an opportunity to address the board, please see one of the clerks to sign up for one of the 5 extra reserved speaker slots for this evening. Your name will be called after the registered speakers. Also, there will be an opportunity for individuals to speak if there are no-show speaker slots remaining at the end of the hearing. After all the registered speakers have addressed the board, I will announce whether there are any no-show slots available. For this, we ask that you state your full name at the time you speak. After you have spoken, please see one of the clerks so that she may collect your contact information for the record. Throughout the evening, you may notice board members leave the table at times, but they will have access to a TV that is broadcasting the public hearing. Now, a couple of quick announcements. Ms. Diane Colfax is on her way. A number of our board members were in Richmond today advocating on behalf of our schools. Yes, we have many others. Thank you very much for being down there. Ms. Palchak had a little engine trouble on the way back from Richmond, so will not be here tonight. But at any rate, there may be others coming in. So our first 3 speakers, Toby Latham, Precious Crabtree, and Laura Jane Cohen. Toby Latham is first.
Madam Chair, members of the school board, Dr. Brabran, and FCPS leadership team, good evening and thank you for this opportunity to comment on the proposed budget. My name is Toby Latham. My son, a 4-year-old in the special education preschool program, is among the over 2,400 FCPS students who use an alternative augmentative communication device, or AAC device, to communicate with his peers and adults in his classroom. He was only 2 years old when he started in the preschool program and started using a tablet-based application that provides him access to over 3,400 words that he can use in his everyday conversations. And it's with that device that he has the best opportunity to keep up with his peers in the classroom, communicate effectively in various settings, and eventually become a successful portrait of a graduate. But the device alone is not enough. His success will require well-trained and highly motivated physical therapists to ensure that he maintains the gross motor skills and necessary strength to carry his device, occupational therapists to ensure that he has the fine motor skills necessary to use the device, speech-language pathologists to ensure that he continues to make progress in his language development, assistive technology resource teachers to provide cutting-edge AAC training, and these magical human beings we call teachers to ensure that the principles from all of those disciplines are incorporated in the classroom. To attract and retain these well-qualified individuals and to keep them highly motivated, FCPS must continue adjusting its employees' compensation, not just until it meets the market, but until it reflects the true value of these individuals' contribution to our county. So I'm here tonight to express my support for the superintendent's proposed budget as it gets us closer to that objective. In addition, I'm here to support the proposed special education budget. As I've said at previous hearings, special education arguably receives more scrutiny than any other program in the system, as the individual education programs represented in that very large slice of the budget pie are created and regularly reviewed by teams that include not only parents, but also students where appropriate, and administrators, teachers, related service providers, and other school personnel. Moreover, if you talk to the special education program managers, As I did recently with the manager of the Assistive Technology Services Department, you'll hear about their ongoing search for efficiencies in areas that will not negatively impact the quality of services provided to students so that the freed up dollars can be spent in other areas. In my view, Assistant Superintendent Teresa Johnson, Dr. Irene Meyer, and the personnel further down the chain continue to champion the needs of the special education community while being responsible stewards of the public's investment. But that doesn't mean that additional dollars are not needed to improve special education programs. In the weeks that follow tonight's hearing, I plan to continue my conversations with the ATS manager and sometime thereafter reach out to each of you to discuss some opportunities to improve the education of students like my son who use AAC devices. With the remainder of my time, I just want to thank everyone who helped create the proposed budget document and supplements. It's an extraordinary source of information, and you guys and gals all deserve recognition for your hard work. And I want to say ahead of time, thank you to all the school board members for all of the work you're going to put in during the budget cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Precious Crabtree, to be followed by Laura Jane Cohen.
Good evening, Dr. Brabrand, school board members. Tonight, I stand before you in agreement that Dr. Brabrand's budget appears to be good news on many levels. But I need to add to the conversation about staffing formulas and their effect on our caring culture. Have you ever seen the clip from I Love Lucy where she's trying to keep up with a conveyor belt in the chocolate factory? Lucy is shoving chocolates in her mouth and in her hat, trying to keep up with the pace, but the chocolates just keep coming through the factory. It may seem funny at first, until you realize that you are Lucy, and the factory represents the system in which you work. Then you realize the chocolates on the conveyor belt represent the workload, and no matter how hard you try to keep up with the pace, the workload continues to increase, and no one notices you are drowning. So they speed up the required pace again. This is my reality as an FCPS art teacher. I've been teaching 23 years. My schedule feels like a sprint every day with back-to-back classes for 3 hours with no transition time. Oh, and I teach 600 students. The sad part is I'm not alone. This is the life of many FCPS employees, especially elementary specialists. To understand, you must spend a day with a teacher that has children walking in as others walk out for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. I would like you to try to imagine trying to build relationships, address concerns, or just truly being there for your kiddos when they just keep moving in and out like a factory. Good teaching requires us to reflect on our practice, build relationships with our students, and then deliver instruction based on their needs. But how can we do any of those things well when there's no time to catch our breath or even use the restroom? Now imagine going 3 hours or longer without water, talking nonstops while working with your students. How can I possibly work in a caring culture when there is no time for self-care? The current staffing formula is outdated and unrealistic. Our caring culture, unattainable. Virginia Administrative Code clearly states that middle or secondary teachers shall teach no more than 150 students per week. PE and music teachers may teach up to 200, but beyond that, an appropriate contractual agreement and compensation shall be provided. So I leave you with this thought. Why is our youngest, neediest children not a priority when it comes to terms of staffing? I work really hard to meet my 600 students' needs, but what if the chocolates on the conveyor belt really represent our students? Each student passing quickly by, a few properly prepared. But for those students who escape my grasp, passing so quickly, will they know how much they matter to me? Will they be prepared for what's next on the conveyor belt of life? I believe we have let them down, and that's what bothers me the most. Please fix the staffing formula so that every student feels supported by all of their teachers, and so that all employees truly feel part of a caring culture. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Laura Jane Cohen, to be followed by Amanda Campbell. Ms. Cohen.
Good evening. My name is Laura Jane Cohen, and I'm the proud mom of 2 FCPS kids. I'm here today, fresh from marching at the Capitol, to talk to you about Mrs. Nolan. Mrs. Nolan was the first person who greeted us at the kindergarten door as I dropped off my tiny 5-year-old. She was the person who hugged me tight when I burst into tears, pointing out which cutie pie in the morning circle was mine. Mrs. Nolan quickly became my daughter's person, and then my son's 2 years later. But she wasn't just their person in kindergarten. She remained their person as they continued through elementary school. Both my children told me if there was ever an emergency, they would find Mrs. Nolan because they knew she would keep them safe, and she did. Every child, parent, and teacher in that building felt exactly the same way as we did about her. And for being every child's and mom's fairy godmother, Mrs. Nolan was paid less than a manager trainee at Domino's. Every school in this county has a Mrs. Nolan, an educational support personnel, or ESP, who knows their child better than any other person in the building. Yet many of them receive compensation that does not afford them the opportunity to feed their family, let alone pay a mortgage here in Fairfax County. All our staff deserve to be treated as professionals. We tell our children that every day as they get on the bus, have a custodian help them clean a spill, or have that lovely person in the front office who calls home to find a missing trumpet. Our school staff can make or break the day for our students. So today, as we wear red for Ed, let's not forget the Mrs. Nolans of the world. Let's pay our ESPs like the professionals they are. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Amanda Campbell, number 4, to be followed by Rachna Heiser and then Diane Cooper Gould. Ms. Campbell.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Campbell, and I'm speaking tonight as an individual. I used my daughter's AAC device briefly in a testimony before you in the fall. Tonight I am using Perloco 2Go for the entirety of my testimony out of necessity. I injured my vocal cords recently, and I have spent about a week and a half on complete vocal rest. The experiences of the last week and a half have been enlightening in many ways, but especially as a window into my daughter's world. I have especially noted how differently people interact with you when they realize you cannot speak. Some were very understanding and patient while I typed out what I needed. Many others, though, assumed I couldn't understand them, either because they thought I spoke another language, or they assumed I was deaf as well. They definitely did not presume competence. In some cases I had a communication partner, someone who could help me get others' attention to wait for me to respond and to help me respond if needed, and that helped tremendously. I have been able to use the text-to-speech feature, in which I type into Perloco 2Go the same way I would type a text message, and then hitting enter, the program will speak for me. Imagine for a moment going about your entire day this way. As a neurotypical adult, it takes me about 10 to 15 seconds to write a text. Imagine how that 10 to 15 second delay for everything you say impacts the flow of conversation. I can tell you from experience, it's maddening at times. And I know how to type. I type pretty fast, and do not have any motor delays to impede my ability to use the device. Now I want you to imagine being a preschooler, kindergartner, or first grader, a child like my daughter, who has a global motor planning disorder that requires assistance just to press the screen. Children this age are still learning how to spell, how to write sentences, and how to categorize, so there is a picture interface, the one I used in my previous testimony to say hi, my name is Amanda Campbell. To say just that simple, much-needed phrase takes me a full 10 seconds to do, and I know how to categorize and conjugate. Now again, put yourself into the shoes of a preschooler, kindergartner, first grader, trying to navigate this program without someone there specifically to help them. Children need appropriate, consistent modeling to learn how to use their communication devices so that the full scope of their abilities can be accurately determined. Now modeling for one child on one device is incredibly hard. Now imagine being responsible for modeling for multiple students, all on different communication programs, all within the same classroom, and only having an ATS specialist in your building once every 10 days or so. This is an unrealistic expectation of our special education and general education teachers as well as our ATS staff. ATS case loads are far too high to be effective for the students who truly need them. Students like my daughter also need communication partners who can focus on modeling their devices, while teachers can focus on teaching academics. Do not wait for Virginia to require it of you. The students who rely on AAC to communicate need FCPS to step up to the plate and lead a change in Virginia to bring the staffing ratios down to reasonable levels for ATS staff, and to see the value in communication partners in allowing a child full access to their free and appropriate public education.
Thank you. My apologies for being late. I was on Capitol Hill also dealing with budget issues. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Rachna. Followed by Diane Cooper Gould.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rachna Heiser. I'm the parent of 2 students, a current student at Lake Braddock in 10th grade and a recent graduate, and I'm also a candidate for the school board at large. I'm here first to thank you very much for the work you've done so far to get teacher salaries competitive and really show our teachers that we value their work. So I want to thank you guys very much for doing that. I also wanted to put a plug in for specialists. To follow Ms. Crabtree's remarks on that. One thing I want you to think about for specialists, especially music and arts education, is not just the value they bring to our students in elementary school, but the place they help them find once they get to middle and high school. Studies show that belonging is the #1 criteria for student retention and success. And if students have access to arts education in elementary school, they are more likely to be able to have a place to belong, band, chorus, theater, often places to find your community in secondary school. So it is vital for many reasons that we properly fund our arts education and our specialists so they can build those relationships and teach the students. I know for my own son, who's a brilliant musician but not very academically inclined, his arts education has given him confidence, self-esteem, and peers he can relate to, and that is vital for our many students who need a place to belong. I also wanted to come talk to you about supporting our ESPs, and in particular our paraprofessionals and IAs, and looking at their staffing and especially their pay structure. Our IAs are unique in some ways in Fairfax County. A lot of times we think of our paraprofessionals as making copies, but our paraprofessionals really do a lot of direct instruction in the classroom, especially considering our overcrowded classrooms, especially considering the increase in trying to do differentiated instruction, and in supporting our special education students in accessing the general education classroom. There's a lot of behavior management, direct instruction, and other things that we count our IAs to do. We also have a unique population of IAs. The heavy military families and transient population mean we have many well-educated people working as IAs for work-life balance. As an HR professional, I can tell you, when we're looking at pay structures and compensation, there's 2 things you look at. What does a job require, and what are the skills of the people that are doing the job? We need to do a better job in Fairfax County at looking at the highly skilled paraprofessionals that we have that are unique to this county, and the value those skills are bringing to our students, and the amount of direct instruction that they are doing. I can tell you my own children, a lot of their education was done by paraprofessional support in the classroom, and I think we need to value that. And one last thing, we need more behavioral interventionists. Right, we need to manage behavior in the classroom so we can better help our teachers have a positive learning environment. Thank you for your time. I appreciate Go Red for Ed.
Diane Cooper Gould, followed by Arthur Purvis, and then Kevin Hickerson.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Diane Cooper Gould, president of Fairfax County Special Education PTA, and I'm happy to be home after 3 days in Richmond at our PTA conference and Advocacy General Assembly Lobbying Day. It was fantastic to see the sea of red covering the Capitol lawn, woo! And through the halls, flooding through the Pocahontas building, so that was great. Public schools are the backbone of our society, and teachers are the backbone of public schools. But our lobbying did not stop with advocating for teacher pay. It also included a strong push for the General Assembly to remove support staff funding caps. Currently, our FCPS support staff is making about $3 less than a living wage in Fairfax County. This is a tragedy, and we hope Richmond will listen. But tonight, on behalf of SEPTA, I would like to express our support for the proposed 2019-2020 budget. We are so pleased to see that the budget continues to honor the commitment made to increase FCPS teacher pay. In addition, the proposed class size reduction is a measure that benefits all students and teachers. It will have particularly positive implications for special education students included in a mainstream classroom. And it wouldn't be SEPTA without an ask. So, in addition to advocating for better support staff pay on the state level, we must reiterate this need on the local level. In particular, our instructional assistants and FCPS have a huge role to play in the education of students with disabilities. IAs provide much of the daily support and instruction to special education students, and yet get paid less than $15 an hour. They must have access to county trainings and a living wage. Other support staff that we will continue to advocate are behavior intervention specialists. Behavior intervention teachers are one of the linchpins for assisting with challenging behaviors in the classroom. They're central office staff who work extensively with both special ed and general ed students. For our entire county of nearly 200,000 students, we have 17 behavior intervention teachers. Supervising them is one program manager and one specialist. These teachers address student behavior needs in every school in our county, plus provide all professional development training for behavior. During the 2016-2017 school year, these 17 teachers had a total of 7,331 individual requests for behavior support. They provided 22,100 behavior support to a total of 377 professional development trainings. Just 17 people. That comes out to 1,300 behavior supports per teacher per year, with additional professional trainings on top of that number. Those numbers are untenable. Please consider finding a way to aid and add funding for additional behavior intervention staff to serve all of our FCPS students. Thank you.
Thank you. Arthur Purvis, followed by Kevin Hickerson, and then Tony Chivers.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, thank you for holding this hearing. My name is Arthur Purvis. I address you as president of the Fairfax County Taxpayers Alliance. I gave your staff a handout, which apparently they'll give to you tomorrow, which has two graphs and a table. The first graph shows that over the last 20 years, Fairfax County real estate taxes have been increasing about 3 times faster than household income. This is not sustainable. IRS data shows that more taxpayer wealth is leaving the county than is coming into the county. Meanwhile, household income has barely kept up with inflation. The second graph shows that over the same 20-year period, Fairfax County public school spending has increased 5 times faster than enrollment, from $1.3 billion to over $3 billion. And even if you adjust for inflation, Fairfax County public school spending has increased more than 2.5 times faster than inflation. The first graph shows you that household income has not been increasing 2 times faster than inflation. And then there's a table, and the table addresses the academic achievement we've been getting from a very generous taxpayer contribution. The taxpayers have done their job, increasing spending 5 times faster than enrollment. And so these results, so one of them comes from the 2017 ACT results for Fairfax County. I've asked a few months ago for the 2018 results, but have not yet received them. And what it shows is that only 54% of the Fairfax County students tested were prepared for college-level STEM courses. And the percent prepared varied dramatically among high schools, from 66% at Langley to 14% at Mount Vernon. Why does academic achievement vary so much from high school to high school? Now, the problem with the ACT is that that just tests a self-selected subset of students who are applying to college. What would happen if you administered the ACT to all students? Well, one way to estimate that is to look at the SOL results for Algebra 1. Algebra 1 is administered to a large sample of students. And in the 2017-2018 SOL, end of course, Algebra 1 results for Fairfax County. There were 16,000 students tested, and only 21% passed at the advanced level. Now, a great many more passed at the so-called proficient level, but that is passing. D is passing. I think the advanced level is a far better indicator of college and career preparedness. Money is not the answer to your academic problems. If you even care about them, the answer is a better curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Purvis. Kevin Hickerson, followed by Tony Chivers, and then Miss Julie Sheppard.
Good afternoon, evening. Thank you for passing the Red for Ed resolution in November. And I want to thank for those that came down. I know those that didn't were there in spirit, so I thank you for that as well. And I want to thank everybody who braved the roads from Richmond back up to Fairfax and doing it all in one day, so thank you for that. Martin Luther King once said, "Justice too long delayed is justice denied." So we must not continue to segregate our employees in a way that gives the impression that one is more important than the other. While we see that teachers are getting another massive influx in the salary scale, we cannot help but notice that our fellow bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria workers, and IAs are still struggling on theirs. We need to act now with a proactive plan that increases our support personnel's salary so that they can make ends meet and not have work additional jobs to do so. The Fairfax Education Association's Rep Assembly passed a motion to increase the minimum hourly rate to $19.33, but I'd like to see 20 in 2020. To get closer to a true living wage in Fairfax, we will be working with our fellow county employees so that we can lift all of Fairfax together. With that, we would like to thank the school board and the superintendent and HR for working with us on the bachelor's lanes. The care and that you showed in that really put employees together and put us first to make sure that we would correct the problem of capping the lanes at 19. We must make sure that the master's lanes, as it's being readjusted, also makes sure that the longevity steps don't are actually equal out and balance out in the long run. We also must make sure that staffing formulas, as Precious had talked about, support the extra money in the staffing reserves to begin to address the problems that are truly there. And lastly, safety and security. It's one of the things that we brought up at our board meeting last week, and we just need to make sure that we put some more money into our infrastructure to be able to make sure that our students and our faculty feel safe in the classrooms that they learn and teach in, because a good learning environment, of course, is a good working environment as well. So thank you very much. I'm going to go pass out. Have a good evening.
Sleep well. Tony Chivers, followed by Julie Sheppard and Kimberly Adams.
Good evening, Chairman Sanders, Vice Chairman Moon, School Board Member Hines, Dr. Braybrand, and members of the Fairfax County School Board. My name is Tony Chivers. I'm the Superintendent Liaison for Armstrong ESPTA. I'm also a proud member as well. I reside in Herndon. I'm a proud parent of a 3rd and 5th grader, as well as a proud husband of a nationally board certified teacher in the Fairfax County school system. The Armstrong ESPTA is an active part of the oldest and largest child volunteer advocacy organization in Fairfax County with over 35,000 members. I just came back from Richmond to help advocate on behalf of the PTA. This blue scarf that I'm wearing signifies the Virginia PTA support for public education. This red tie that I'm wearing is in support for Red for Ed campaign that was established by Virginia teachers to secure increased investment for Virginia's public education system. The PTA supports the governor's FY20 budget proposal that increases education funding by $268 million, including a 5% pay increase for Commonwealth teachers, an increase they well deserve. The Armstrong ESPTA also supports passage of Dr. Braybrand's FY20 budget proposal that increases investment in Fairfax County's most important product, its world-class education system, and its resource, its children. Every child in Fairfax County deserves to have a great teacher in the classroom, and Dr. Braybrand's proposal makes the necessary investments to recruit and retain teachers where they belong, right here in our great county. Currently, Armstrong has about 460 students and is a comprehensive services site with about 25% of the student population with special needs, including enhanced autism. Armstrong also provides an advanced academics program, level 4, and an elementary advanced academics program, levels 2 and 3. The school also provides English language learner services to 10% of its student population. Over 12% of the student population receives free and reduced price lunch. Because of the increased investment in the approved budget from last year for additional school support staff to targeted elementary schools, Armstrong hired a full-time social worker and a psychologist to meet the many needs of his students and families. We thank you for that. Dr. Braybrand's proposal would help continue to address the various needs of our world-class public education system, including specific challenges and needs of Armstrong, such as large class sizes, lack of special education teachers, resources and student supports, lack of trained school bus drivers, and an inadequate substitute teacher pool. The PTA supports providing our retired teacher substitutes the pay that they deserve. They worked hard and made sacrifices for our school system and for our students. The PTA urges the school board to continue to make our school system even stronger and to respect our teachers that made FCPS what it is today and what it will be in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pfeiffer Sheppard, followed by Ms. Kimberly Adams, and then Mr. Dave Swan.
Thank you, Chairman Karen Corbett Sanders, Vice Chair Erlong Moon, Lead District Representative Denorak Koufax, and Dr. Braybrand, the Superintendent of School, and the rest of the school board members for the opportunity to present to you this evening. I, too, was down in Richmond with my peers advocating for PTA and in the Pocahontas building today. So ran into Chairman Sanders in the parking lot as I was leaving. So I'm Julie Sheppard, and I'm the Advocacy Chair and the Military Families Connect Chair from Hayfield Secondary School and a military spouse. I'm here to speak in support of Superintendent Braybrand's budget. Hayfield Secondary School is one of 3 secondary schools in the county, and we have a high concentration of military-connected youth due to its location near several military installations. We were the first high school in Fairfax County and in Northern Virginia to receive the inaugural Purple Star Award from the State Department of Education, which was given to us for being military friendly by demonstrating a major commitment to our military connected youth and families. Hayfield also has a Hawk Food Pantry. This was started this year to help reach our students who are food insecure. We had an outpouring of support from our local community for the Hawk Pantry to help our families affected by the partial government shutdown. Thank you, Dr. Braybrand, for speaking and presenting your budget proposal last week at the Fairfax County Council PTA meeting. 3 areas I'd like to highlight that we're in support of is the increase in the teacher pay, which will help to attract and retain our high-quality teachers, the increase in the retired teacher substitute pay, bringing back these highly qualified substitutes, and lastly, the decrease in class size. These 3 areas have been a consistent concern of our school community. Hayfield will particularly benefit from the proposed class size decrease as we had an influx of military students register at our school this fall, where the principal was proactive in addressing this. We are proud to have a program for our military connected youth called Student to Student and Junior Student to Student, and these programs bring military and civilian students together to welcome new students and help ease their transitions. On behalf of Hayfield Secondary School, we look forward to working with the school board and the Board of Supervisors to fully fund this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kimberly Adams, followed by Dave Swan, and then Misha Chernov.
Good evening, Chairwoman Corbett Sanders, esteemed school board members, and Dr. Braybrand. My name is Kimberly Adams, and I'm speaking to you this evening as the President-elect of the Fairfax Education Association. Today, we marched on Richmond to increase funding for education. Thank you to so many of you for being there, and to those who I didn't end up running into. There were over 2,000 people on the Capitol today. We gathered together to support our schools. As you know, Virginia's educators are standing up to ensure that every child is getting the education they need. Our association is supportive of the proposed budget, but we do believe that there is at least one important thing that has been left unfunded. We have seen an increase in the pay for some, but not all job classifications. While we do appreciate that you've taken steps to make teachers whole and pay your administrators and others on U.S. scales, many of our support personnel are not being paid what would be considered a living wage in Fairfax County. You know from many stories shared at this podium in the years past and tonight that our support personnel are not only able to live in Fairfax County, but they're not able to provide for their families, especially if they're the single income earner. It's imperative that we take steps, such as those being taken this month and next in the General Assembly, to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour for all employees, and then start the real conversation about what our value of our support staff truly is. Every employee, from bus drivers to teachers, custodians, and principals, and everything in between, should be adequately compensated for their work. Fairfax educators will continue to put our students first by sustaining your world-class system. Our world-class system deserves to be compensated. We ask this board and this administration to work with us to drive the changes needed for our students and pay your employees what they're worth. Thank you very much.
Mr. Swan, followed by Ms. Chernov, and then Ms. Lisa Cordova.
Chairman Corbett Sanders, members of the school board, Dr. Braybrand, and all the support employees of this school board, IT, finance, communications, custodial, and security who make this meeting possible. I am Dave Swan, chairman of the Support Services Employees Advisory Council. The SSEAC represents over 40% of all FCPS employees, and we endorse this budget. And we thank you for putting this budget together that so closely matches our strategic plan. We agree with Dr. Braybrand's priorities of first, getting the pay right for our current employee positions to hire and retain the best. Second, to properly staff the programs that are important, like reducing class size and maintaining our facilities. And third, to develop the programs that will most benefit the system and the students. We ask that you consider the proposed living wage under the first priority. FCPS employees are currently paid a living wage of $14.50. This budget will bring that up to the county's current living wage of $14.86. We ask that you add a 40,000-hour placeholder in this budget for the estimated increase that the county will make to this living wage next year. That will allow us to pay the employees that are subject to this wage the same pay as the county next year, which we believe is your intention, rather than leaving our most vulnerable employees 1 year behind. Under the second priority, let's take another look at the Gibson study that FCPS paid for several years ago to determine the correct staffing levels for preventative maintenance of our facilities. Our current staffing allows us to meet but a fraction of what it says we need. Let us prepare future budgets to allow proper preventative maintenance of our increasingly aging facilities. Deficit maintenance cannot be sustained forever. There is a national shortage of tradesmen. Using the third priority, we can address this while providing opportunities for our students. Let's develop and expand apprenticeship, mentor, and academies for our students whose talent is in the trades. Once they graduate, they'll have a great career with a fantastic employer while encouraging the next generation to do the same. In fact, why not expand this for our teaching, IT, finance, food service, and office needs? Tying the strategic plan to our budget makes our priorities clear. Hiring, developing, and retaining top talent ensures student success. We owe this to our taxpayers, as no county amenity no county amenity benefits the quality of life and home values like a top-notch school system. On behalf of the SSEAC, I thank you for your service your consideration, and your support.
Thank you. Misha Chernov, Lisa Cordova, and Tracey Anderson.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Braybrand. My name is Misha Chernov. I'm a Fairfax County teacher and resident. I am here tonight to speak about the budget's redesigned teacher pay scale and the elimination of the longevity steps. I have taught elementary music for 23 years for FCPS and am currently on step 23 in the master's lane. I wanted to share my story and let you know that I had a visceral reaction when I saw the proposed pay scale and the fact that the future longevity step increases I had anticipated on receiving were now being cut. After witnessing what happened to the educators at the top of the BA lanes, I began to lose trust in FCPS. This led me to do some back-of-the-envelope math, comparing what my earnings and retirement would have been with the old formula of the pay scale compared to that of the redesigned pay scale. If my calculations are correct, there would be a slight loss with my total salary earnings in the new pay scale, but what was highly concerning was the loss in my retirement earnings. Under the proposed pay scale, I would receive $1,000 less per year. Over time, this would amount to a significant financial loss to my pension. Now, hopefully, my back-of-the-envelope math is wrong, which brings me to my one ask of the board and Dr. Braybrand. I ask you to please show me the calculations of what my total salary and retirement payout would have been if I had continued in the old pay scale structure compared with the proposed pay scale. Show me if I benefit. Show me if this decision is harmless. And if I am negatively impacted, I want to be shown that too. Let's learn from the mistakes of how the BA lane changes were implemented. Those teachers were blindsided in 2017 when the pay scale was posted at the end of the year. While I applaud FCPS for consulting with our teachers' associations about the pay scale redesign, I don't feel this is enough. I suggest that you share the chart of the proposed pay scale now with all employees. Even go so far as to hold a town hall with your most experienced educators like myself, who are sitting at the top of the pay scale, and explain to us how eliminating the longevity steps will either benefit us, not harm us, or cause us a financial loss. We need to know the impact of this change so we can advocate for ourselves before the board votes on eliminating the longevity steps. Being transparent and communicating the details of the pay scale redesign will help repair the trust that was lost. I thank you for your time and your dedication to the students and families of Fairfax County Public Schools.
Thank you. Lisa Cordova, followed by Tracey Anderson.
Good evening, all school board members. We are here this evening representing the pre-K and early Head Start program. We are Family Services Assistants for the Fairfax County Public Schools pre-K. This is these families' first experience for FCPS. Our primary role is to ensure our children to enter kindergarten prepared to learn. We are committed to close what researchers refer as the achievement gap. This gap is seen with low-income families and their children into kindergarten. We help children and prepare them for their social, emotional, academic needs. We work with the most vulnerable, highest need families in our community. And today we are reaching out to you because of the low morale in our department. We love what we do. However, we do not feel recognized or valued. We have grown in our profession while increasing our technology, communication, and personal skills. We have adapted quickly to rapid change and growth within pre-K and FCPS. These changes have required us to do more specialized work in order to bring equitable services and support the families and students. We respectfully ask for a grade increase that is more in the line with our level of work and skill set. We have taken on additional responsibilities over the past few years while continuing to serve families with great compassion and care. We continue to improve our skills and customer services. And with a salary increase, we can feel pride in what we do. A higher pay grade will provide us with recognition for our important work with families, and it will increase our employee morale and satisfaction while bringing equity to our roles in the FCPS. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, followed by Ms. Joann Walton, and then Mr. Norm Hall.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your time tonight, today at the rally. It was an experience like none other. I was really excited, and we're going to keep on pushing for what we need statewide, but that's why we're now here locally. My name is Tracey Anderson. I represent Fairfax Education Association, and I am an ESP. An ESP is an education support professional. Did you know that ESPs add value to FCPS? We not only organize supply drives, which push our resource stewardship part of the strategic plan, we also write grants for schoolyard gardens, which helps with student success. Turning the page and looking at just IA scales, over the last 20 years, we have inched up only about $8,000 in our salary, from $14,000 to $22,000. Kind of disgraceful for Fairfax County. Did you know that IAs and other support staff earn about $30,000, or just about the 10th step on the IA scale, can actually qualify for free and reduced lunch and other public assistance? That's full-time working in Fairfax County Public Schools. And that's a two-person household, of course, one being the child and one being the parent working full-time. Yes, I'll repeat. They can qualify for public assistance and free and reduced lunch. That can't be what the 10th largest school system in the United States and the largest employer of Virginia would want for its premier workforce. I would like to also ditto everything Misha was talking about as well, about the scales and the top of the scales. I'm at the top of the IA scale, and 2 years ago, it was chopped down $4,000. So the same that she said about my potential earning in retirement, squandered, gone by $4,000 each year that I continue to work for Fairfax County. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. School Board, please don't be silent. Please don't be shy during this budget cycle. Be a true friend of all of education. Fully fund, support staff. Thank you.
Ms. Joann Walton.
Good evening, Madam Chair and school board members and Dr. Brabrand and support staff. I also thank you very much for this opportunity, and I know that many of you know me as a special ed parent, but I'm actually going to pivot tonight, and I'm going to talk about my other big passion here in Fairfax County, which is trying to provide support to the families of the 54,000 children on free and reduced meals in our county. And I do this in a couple of ways. I volunteer with BRAS, the Bringing Resources to Aid Women's Shelters, and I also work at Bright Paths, a local nonprofit. And I partner with a lot of the school social workers to try to provide some of the basic needs for the students, backpacks, and food over the weekends and that sort of thing. And tonight I'm actually here in support of Ms. Keys-Gamara's resolution requesting that we provide feminine hygiene products to all of the schools. You know, as we know worldwide, this is a barrier to attendance, right? Chronic attendance concerns. And we know that this is happening here in our county, and we know that that's going to limit girls' success down the road if they're not able to get to school just because they don't have access to feminine hygiene products. So I think it's really, really, really important that, you know, all the barriers that these families face, that we really, you know, we need to start chipping away, and that's a great barrier, I think, to start with. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to voice my support and my concern, and thanks very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Good evening. I have 22 questions on the proposed 2020 budget. By focusing on special education, these questions will not be among the most frequently asked questions of FCPS leadership. For the families and staff who care for students with disabilities, the finances of FCPS are secondary concerns to the proper accommodations being provided. So here are the top Qs of what I refer to as my rarely asked questions, RAQ. Related to market competitive compensation, that is the focus of Goal 4 research stewardship. 1, how does special education teacher pay compared to market average? It is common knowledge that the average tenure for special ed teachers is less than general ed teachers, which leads to the next question. 2, what is the distribution of special education faculty by pay lane and steps? In order to be market competitive, shouldn't there be consideration about this important and statistically large subset of students, or teachers rather? On page 55 is mention of IDEA program expenses. 3, how confident is staff about the minimal increase in special education enrollment as 2.2% on page 132? On the benchmark table, there is an assumed decrease for level 2 and preschool. This reverses the trend shown on this table. There was a question raised about this at the work session. However, the response did not consider that this might be a one-year departure from an ongoing trend. On page 129, the proposed budget properly states that the special education services are determined by each student's individualized education program, which is developed by a team. Question 4, has there been an expert review to determine the relative frequency of insufficient versus adequate versus excessive service determination decisions made at these IEP meetings? Question 5, does leadership recognize that school-based administrators have the ability to treat these meetings as resource economic games where potential outcomes are viewed as controllable costs? What assurances does the school board and the public have that principals will approve resources at the margin that lead to free, appropriate public education and not simply some benefit? Are IEP decisions subject to internal audit review for fidelity to equitable outcomes system-wide? On the next page is cryptic language that is hard to understand, even for someone who's been studying FCPS budgets for a few years. Number 6, when did the school board last establish ratios for special education? Where is it documented? This issue only comes up in budget documents, seemingly a circular reference. Number 7, when will the school board consider the dynamic process of adjusting special ed during the year so that it is not considered set by December counts as discussed during the 2019 mid-year budget review? Students whose first quarter performance and faculty observations suggest evaluations are often the subject of local screening evaluations and the development of IEPs starting after Thanksgiving. In other cases, there may need to be revisions in approach due to the prior year IEP not setting the optimal level of service and intensity of services. Thank you for listening and for following up on my RAQ.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming out tonight and sharing your comments and concerns about the budget. Our FY20 advertised budget will be discussed at a work session this Thursday, January 31st, beginning at 7 p.m. right here at Luther Jackson Middle School. I hope many of you plan to attend, and again, thank you for coming out tonight. We do appreciate you being here and talking to us. Have a good night.